I make a motion, we move forward with the hospital.
I have a motion on the floor. I have a second.
Second.
Have a second on the floor. All in favor? All opposed?
I
I
oppose.
oppose. And go,
Oh, well, it's already
It's been done. Thank you very much, Commissioners. Thank you.
planning and zoning report.
Commissioners, you have the items in front of you of the, what was approved as a planning and zoning consent agenda. There were not too many objections, there weren't any objections to the items that I know, but there was a couple, some of the motions included some stipulations with the approvals that were made. You would, I'm sorry, and I'm so sorry, Commissioner. You'd like me to read each one? You want to do all the critical shorelines as one motion? Or you want
we need
to
to-
go through one by
Probably
one?
one,
Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yes, sir.
You're saying there were some corrections made after the vote was taken at P and Z?
No, it's more like some amendments. For instance, let me, at the meeting, we had to poll, some of the items were polled, so let me get my, Mr. Floyd item. They made, and Dan could speak to some of the,
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Mike a question?
yes, sir, I'm
You're
sorry.
saying that there were amendments made to the application after the...
No, I'm sorry. The original agenda, you can hold on, Amy. The original agenda that was put in front of the board, there were a couple of items that were removed from that because a couple of the applicants were not ready as we thought they would be. Okay.
So there weren't any changes in the, okay.
No.
Additions, there were some deletions.
Deletions from the original ones. I want to make sure they got the correct one. What I'm going to ask Amy, there were a couple of motions that were made that had, I guess, contingencies on them, is what was one. And one was the one with Dan and Mr. Floyd. And I'll have Amy explain to you all the two, which is item 5 on your agenda.
Okay.
And Dan is here also to speak to the same thing. But it's something I think is important for you guys to know. Go ahead, Amy, you can explain.
Basically, they approved it contingent upon getting engineered plans for stormwater and beautification of the berms. Because they're doing a.
And that's item 5.
Yes, that's item 5. And-
Why aren't we taking item number 1,
Oh,
2, 3, 4, 5?
well, I apologize because of what Commissioner Paris asked, which ones I was referring to with the stipulations that was made in the motion.
Oh, okay, but we need
can
to go
through
ahead and
one by
take it
one.
in order
If you
then.
go down 1 through 5, then we'll get to 5.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry. Okay, item 1,
Y'all had us confused
confused.
over
I'm
here, okay?
confusing myself. Consideration of a request to construct a community dock and repair of an existing boat ramp at a common area of Magnolia Bay subdivision, Bay Point Drive, East Point, Franklin County, Florida. The dock will be 50 by 4 and the boat ramp will be 50 by 16, contingent upon getting state and federal permits or exemption. The request was submitted by Mr. Garlick, Environmental.
I have a motion.
So moving.
I have a second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Second item, consideration of request to construct a single-family private dock at 2120 US Highway 98, West Carabel, Franklin County, Florida. The dock will be 200 by 4 with an 8 by 20 terminal platform and 2 12 by 20 boat lifts.
That's in
Applicant,
my district, and
So
I
moved.
think it's good. Okay. We got a motion on the floor?
Second.
Second. They're all in favor?
and also, I'm sorry, Commissioners, the applicant is also requesting to add enhance an existing riprap revetment with extra rocks. I wanted to make sure that got in as part of the motion. Important. That was item 2.
I amend my motion for it to go in.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Item 3, consideration of a request to construct a single-family pier at Lot 7. A single, it should be a dock, a single-family dock at Lot 7.
Docks have boat lifts.
Sandpiper Village, 1627 Forsythia Trail on St. George Island in the county. The wetland boardwalk will be 88 by 4 with a 29 by 4 access pier with a 20 by 8 terminal platform, also with two 12 by 20 uncovered boat lips. They have state and federal permits, and Garlic submitted this request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Next item is consideration of a request to construct a single-family private dock extension at Lot 2, Block 29, Unit 4 at 402 Weefing Street, also in St. George Island. The addition to the existing dock will be an 8 by 20 terminal platform with two 20 by 14 uncovered boat lips. They have their state permits, and but it is contingent on receiving a federal permit.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And the one I was rushing to, consideration
Now
of a
this-
request for commercial dredge, fill and spoil cell site prep placement in the uplands at the northwest corner of Franklin Boulevard and West Bayshore Drive on St. George Island. Contingent upon getting Army Corps of Engineer permits, request submitted by Garlic Environmental. And this is the one, as I was discussing earlier, where there was discussion about drainage, them not flooding their neighbors, and the beautification of the berms. Sorry, just moved ahead there.
I got a question on the beautification of the berms. Now, the berms are the dredge material that's going to be deposited?
No, the
No.
berms are being created out of the upland area that's there now.
Okay.
So they're gonna dig out, 3 to 6 feet, I forget exactly how deep, and use that material to build the berms. Similar to what we did over here at 2 Mile when we built our berms there. We used the existing land to create the berms.
So, I mean, what is the beautification
Well,
of?
I
Are
mean,
those berms permanent, or?
No, they shouldn't be permanent, I'm not really sure, I mean. these are-
It was
It
raised
said
by,
with planting, they're
I'm
gonna
sorry.
put plants on it.
Planning
It's
and
gonna get
zoning.
weeds on it quick enough. I
The
can
members
tell
of the
you.
Planning and Zoning Board is who raised that concern.
Okay.
I guess what they were saying, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, is that it was, the look is what they're looking for, that,
The
you know, that people
aesthetic.
have passed by.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, the aesthetic look.
That's correct.
Okay.
Specifically, we agreed with that
Yes, they
suggestion. And it was about putting sea oats, not only on the berms, but also the spoil mounds, once the dredge material had been deposited. And the idea was it's an entry point onto the island, and we wanted it to look good. And this was a simple solution that seemed to meet everybody's favor. We talked about running a line of palms down at some point, also along the Bay Shore Avenue area, but that would be after the project was completed.
Can I ask a question? Do we have a map?
Yes.
I'd like to see a map. Dan, have you got one?
I sure do.
Amy, one of y'all?
While he's getting that, one of the key elements of this
Yeah, I wanna see the
is
actual thing.
that it presents a harbor safe haven.
I know where it's at, but I
On the
wanna
bay.
make sure.
Let me just explain what those maps represent. There's an aerial view and also a black and white, so the aerial's not behind it. As well, there's a cross-sectional drawing. And what that shows you is the area that we have that we could place spoil and stay out of the 50-foot critical shoreline, plus stay out of the V-zone, which is real important as well. So that area, we're showing as crosshatched in yellow as areas that we could spoil. During the meeting, the question came up from planning member Rigglemeyer about the stormwater aspect, and it was a well-founded one. Of course, what we're looking at is a conceptual thing first, and then from that point, we go on and do the engineering. And that engineering would allow us to design it so we make sure that there's no water that would collect on the road side, which would be Bay Shore Road, make sure that doesn't happen. What's really going to happen at the end here, I think this is going to end up being a nice buffer, so if there ever is a storm, it's going to be more protection for those upland areas, and that's a benefit. The other thing that came up also was the issue of stabilization, and so what we agreed to do is to plant sea oats to help stabilize, and if you irrigate that, then the vegetation should come back pretty quick, and that should take care of that until we deal with the
Ain't
disposition
that
as
gonna
well.
be, I don't mean no harm by it, but ain't that gonna be ugly, driving down Franklin Boulevard?
Well, that's why I think they wanted to do the beautification of using the plantings and stuff like that. And it's really, it's where we have to put it. It's almost like if you can think of what's going to happen in East Point, you got to put that spoil somewhere. And this is the only spot we've really got to put
So
it.
it's the same situation as what it was over in East Point, you gotta put it.
You got to put it somewhere, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, last I heard, it's going back in the woods over in East Point,
But
but
you got a total of what? 1.04, 2.57 acres, and then almost an acre down here. So you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5.5 acres that you're talking about. It's gonna be nothing but a spoil area.
yeah, but chances are, how much that we're going to use, we may end up using half of it, we may use a third of it. We just want to make sure people could understand that we had areas that we could spoil and stay out of the V zone.
It'll
That's
be
what that was all
removed
about.
at some point, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It actually, a lot of it's probably going to be spread too, so you're probably not going
Okay.
to see a burn for very long, but we just want to make sure you had the worst-case scenario to see where, we could do our work.
And what permits have you got so far, Dan?
DEPs is what we've got, and we're working with the Corps of Engineers as we speak.
And the core permits, the way they critical one for how much volume of fill they're gonna get, or how much spoil material they're gonna get. Because it's the core that judges, that navigational, and that's the test you all go through. So that's why they're showing this maximum extent. Who knows exactly what it gets at this point?
Yeah, actually, it's both, DEP and the Corps, but in this case here, we know what the number is. It's going to be up to us at some point at how much do we want to dredge out? Do we want to do the whole thing or part of it as far as the channel going in? It depends on the draft.
Do
of
you
the
know
boats.
what sediment you're gonna be dredging up?
Mostly
What kind of
sand,
sediment?
probably a little bit of organic. That's what it's looking like right now.
No, nothing that's gonna create an environmental
No.
problem?
And the nice thing about the way that we're setting up these berms is that any water that's discharged from the spoiler area back into the water is going to get treated in the berm, or in the basin first before it goes out, and we'll meet all the water quality standards.
You're
and
gonna
all that
treat
stuff
all the water that comes in the basin before it goes back into
there.
the.
We don't have a choice, we got to do
I
it.
know that, but.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I was over there with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's gonna be expensive right there.
What's gotta be treated, right, they pump it inside of there for it to release back over into the bayou. They got a buffer. Once they release it, then the water will go back out. It's gonna be.
It's actually some of those, part of that spoil cell is going to be actually holding area for water before it discharges, and let it settle
And
out.
let me know, because I don't know, because things change in the county as far as oystering a lot. But is any of this area, is it gonna affect the oystermen any at all?
Absolutely
As far as
not.
parking or anything like that? Okay.
Should ultimately be a benefit,
Okay.
being as that the boat launch to the east of the causeway
Yeah,
is virtually closed in. And this harbor, we've been working with Shannon Hartsfield to organize an element of their involvement in the project once it comes to fruition.
Are you gonna let the oysters launch their boat there?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion of approval since it's in my district.
hold on just a minute. Have any public comments? Any comments on it?
they don't have it.
Okay.
I second Mr.
All
Watson's
right, have a motion to second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
And the final item is a commercial site plan review. They also recommended approval to consider a request for commercial site plan review to place a bank at 278 US Highway 98 East Point in the county. The request is submitted by Novia Consulting Group, agent for Emerald Coast Federal Credit Union, who is the applicant. I have Ken, I have Russell, and I think the gentleman from the Emerald Coast.
Okay, that's gonna be east of Taylor's then?
Yes,
over there?
yes.
That empty lot? Okay.
I'd
That's
like-
correct, that's correct. It's,
I'd like to
Jason-
make some comments on this issue. Several years ago, we invited Tyndall Federal, we invited a number of banks to come in and try to bring more options to the people here, and Emerald Coast was the one that came.
They sure did.
They're now being forced to relocate, and we strongly encourage them to come into our community and provide options to the taxpayers and the constituents here and the residents of Franklin County, and I see no need not to move forward with this, and with that, I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Y'all do a good job.
Mr. Marcia Johnson, clerk
The
of
clerk
the
is
court.
attending a conference. I have one item that she'd like to for me to discuss. The Health Department has requested approval of their annual contract with the board to be effective October 1st, 2015, to provide environmental health services, communicable disease control services, and primary care services. The contract does list the county's funding appropriation at $49,000. It lists the 2 health department buildings now owned by the county, and it says all their vehicles will be transferred to the ownership of the county, who shall ensure insurance coverage. The board would agree that the director administrator be selected by the state with the concurrence of the county. There is a termination will a clause of no less than 180 calendar days notice in writing unless a mutual agreed upon lesser time is established. And there is a 24-hour notice of termination clause in the event funds become unavailable. The contract paperwork includes a resolution adopting their fee schedule as well. Attorney Schuler has received a copy of the contract for review, shaking his head yes. Besides, the contract itself included 4 signature pages to be signed and returned to the health department.
So moved.
Have a motion on the floor? Have a second?
I'll second, but I have questions.
Yes, sir.
Is this contract the same as previous contracts?
Yes, sir.
The vehicles that they're listing, we've always paid the insurance on that. Is that an increased cost to the county?
It's not a recent change, but for the last several years, we have owned and paid the insurance on the vehicles. Now, I did not do a head count to find out if they've decreased or increased the number of vehicles, but it's still our ownership and still
Okay.
our expense.
Another issue is the termination at will clause. All that's the same as previous contract?
I can't tell you that I've verified that termination provision, but 6 months does sound right to me.
Okay. With that, that's the questions that I had on that contract there.
Right. Have a motion and a second on the floor? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Alan Pierce.
Good morning. I have a few items to talk about for Restore and Triumph. And first item is, I attended a Triumph meeting in Ebro on September 25th. Senator Gates was present and spoke about the need for the 8 impacted counties to continue to work together on Triumph. As those you all may know, Senator Gates was the architect and the engineer behind the Triumph legislation in the state of Florida. So when he speaks for, really what he intends to have the money spent for. And these are some of the things that he went over. Triumph funds are the result of the state of Florida's lawsuit against BP for economic loss the state suffered. So the state's lawsuit had nothing to do with the federal lawsuit that's going on, and actually it's been concluded in New Orleans. The state lawsuit is over, and the judgment BP has agreed to pay is $2 billion. Senator Gates sponsored the legislation before the lawsuit was settled and created the Triumph Fund. And in that fund, the Triumph legislation created 75% of the settlement would go into Triumph for the economic restoration of the 8 impacted counties. BP is not appealing the state's victory, so at this time, so long as the Florida legislature does not change the structure of Triumph, 75% of $2 billion, or $1.5 billion, will be deposited in the Triumph account for the use by the 8 counties, and we are one of those 8 counties. The first $300 million will go into Triumph in 2016. Then 2 years will pass before any additional money will go into the fund. Then, starting in 2018, there will be annual disbursements into Triumph over the next 15 years. Senator Gates has confidence that the first disbursement will be made into Triumph, mainly because he's still going to be in the legislature when that first disbursement gets made. He was emphatic that the 8 counties will have to work together in the future to make sure the 2017 and 2018 legislature does not alter Triumph, as it only takes a new piece of legislation in the state to change how the money will be allocated. And again, he'll be in the legislature. He's got one more term, and he'll be there when that first $300 million gets allocated. But he did speak openly about the risk for future allocations. We don't know where the money's going to go. $1.5 billion set aside for 8 counties is a lot of money, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on that issue. So we all need to work together to try and protect ourselves. Triumph, as it is currently written, is overseen by a 5-member board of trustees. The senator said his vision of Triumph is for the funds to focus on diversifying the region's economy beyond tourism and military. The Triumph board is currently working on the rules of application, but Senator Gates said counties should not consider Triumph funds, and I'm quoting what he said, to be the first money or the only money for a project. A Triumph project must have other money. The challenge for Franklin Gulf and Wakulla is that Triumph does not guarantee any minimum distribution of funds per county. So it is going to be up to the 5-member Board of Trustees to approve all the funding. And since we're on the eastern end of the impact area, and I can tell you there was some sort of, I won't say concurrence, but basically Triumph Fund was looked as a fund for those counties in the central time zone. Franklin, Gulf, and Wacoa are not in the central time zone. That's why I specifically call us out, as we're going to have to work together specifically to keep the attention of those other 5 counties those other 5 counties consider themselves to be the center of the impact, and they certainly had more impact than we did, but we are a part of the 8, and we need to be recognized in that. And so I see that going to be a challenge. An additional project was discussed at the meeting. Mr. Bill Williams, who is now the Walton County Restore Coordinator, says he's working on a $500,000 U.S. Department of Commerce grant to review, and he again quotes, gaps in the economic development of the 8 counties. And this information would be of assistance to each county when we apply for Triumph funds. The U.S. Commerce grant has not been awarded yet, but Mr. Williams is hopeful that it will be soon. So he's working on something that will then give us some economic data for what we can use to go after Triumph funds. And again, it was Senator Gates emphasized that the Triumph Fund should not be used to replace Restore funds. It should be used for economic development. We need to have somebody who's going to create jobs in the community. It needs to be well tested and well proven. This is not going to be speculative money where we can go in and put infrastructure in. It's got to be to create jobs. I talked to Gulf County, and I will say, I mean, I shouldn't say it, but I will. Gulf County is somewhat concerned because they were hoping to use Triumph funds to be in addition to the $20 million they got for their port. They need some more money, and Triumph funds, at this way it's written, is not for infrastructure. So they cannot use Triumph funds to expand their port. They can use Triumph funds to create some other infrastructure if a job is going to come in. Let's say you're going to build a building to house a manufacturer. But just infrastructure loan, Senator Gates says that's not what Triumph is intended for. So there's going to be some challenges for us to get some money over here. Because we're looking at Triumph funds potentially for improvements of the airport. We talked in just general terms in Gulf and Franklin County what sort of infrastructure improvements the 2 counties need. But the way I understand it, and talking to the new economic developer, first for Gulf County, whose name escapes me all of a sudden.
Chris Holly.
Chris Holly. He's concerned that our aspirations for Triumph as far as infrastructure is not going to be realized, and we may have to do something else with Triumph.
When you speak of infrastructure, Alan, you're talking about, well, we could build a building to house a manufacturer. What if you
Yes.
need to run sewer lines and water lines?
That's
not allowed?
I don't know. That's going to be a challenge.
I mean, that's part of you bringing these people in, so I was
I guess
wondering
if you
there
build
was
if you had a tenant and you were building and sewer and water were part of that tenant, the answer would be yes. But if
Okay.
you're just extending sewer and water lines to a vacant industrial park
Right.
without a tenant, the answer would then be no.
Okay. I was
That's
just wondering
my
about
initial
that.
reaction.
And Alan, I share your sentiments completely because, you know, going to the consortium meetings, going to their store meetings, if we ever get the money, it's gonna surprise me because it's got so many things to go through before we get it. And what it's gonna be specified for may not be what Franklin County needs, but 100%, we need to get that economic engine in here and let's provide some jobs. And I truly believe that,
I'd
so.
like to make a comment. I think it'll be a great opportunity to work with the other counties in focusing on economic development.
And Commissioner Watson, you know, because you work with the governor so closely, he's looking at the regional projects around, and that's what he's been focused on, his people's been focused on, is regionalization. And so when we can do that, it'll be a plus for all of us, you know?
Just like in years past when St. Joe had the mill, there are many people in Franklin County who worked at the mill. And we have to recognize that when you build something like a mill, it's only going to be in one location, and it may not be in your county, but as long as there's some jobs being created, you know, that's a benefit to us. And so we have an airport here, which is never, the airport of our size in Franklin County will never be built again in a rural area. We need to maximize that, and Gulf County is now trying to recreate their port, which also probably couldn't be created in today's economic environment. So the 2 of those things, we hope somehow we can put together and create something that'll draw and create jobs here that we haven't had before.
Very exciting.
So that's Triumph. And briefly in other news, in a conference call on Wednesday, September 16th, as was discussed by the staff from the 8 impacted counties, the counties are not going to try to form another layer of coordination in dealing with Restore. The consensus with the Committee of 8, which is a subset of the consortium already, should be adequate for the 8 impacted counties to work together. So we hopefully won't create any more layers of bureaucracy. And the last item then is, I'm meeting with Dewberry on October 14th to begin the county's startup of Restore. Franklin County will benefit from the learning curve Dewberry has already gone through in Gulf County, so the creation of our multi-year plan, which is a requirement of the U.S. Treasury, should be shorter and smoother than if we had started a year ago when Treasury was still working on its own rules. At this time, no county or parish who's in this area in the Gulf has had its multi-year plan approved by Treasury. So we're not really behind because no one's gotten through the wicket yet. I understand the judge did rule on the proposed settlement, so I believe it's approximately $20 billion. I saw some news releases on that, so that's changed since I wrote this on Thursday. But we will start this process. Mr. Schuh and I are going to meet with Dewberry on the 14th and get started.
I think they only, if I might, Mr. Chairman, I think the actual settlement was 20.2 billion. Now they have to go into a 60-day public comment period, and then it's addressed by the court, and then maybe we can start to see some things move forward after that.
Yeah,
60-day
it'll be
comment period.
2016, but yes. Yeah. Okay, that's
Mr.
Mark.
Chairman, let me ask.
Yes, sir.
Alan, how much more time you got?
Well, this is what I'm doing, and I hope the board understands this. I'm working to assist the board in sort of daily activities, like on the report. I came in last week for 10 or 15 hours to work with Michael to get some of these things wrapped up. There are some things that I know admittedly more about than anybody else, and I want to wrap them up. Some are FEMA related. One later on this morning's a grant that I helped write. So I'll be wrapping those things up. I am also, though, looking at what Restore available is there. So if I'm still getting a full paycheck, some of that is my accrued leave time, which I could have gotten a lump sum allocation for, but it's better for me and hopefully better for the board that I will come in as needed by Michael or the other Michael, Mr. Schuler, to work with the staff to get these things going. That certainly will go through the end of this year, if not into January. If there's a Restore thing, there is funding in Restore for a Restore coordinator. And I do not want a full-time job. I have goals and aspirations myself for next year, but I want to see this process get started, and I want to have us on the road to success. So I hope to fulfill that Restore coordinator position for a while.
Good.
But I will tell you now that I turned 60, and 60 is a milestone in many ways.
It won't kill you.
It won't kill me,
It won't
but there are
kill you.
things I want to accomplish in my life. But so I see this as a transition plan, Commissioner Lockley. Period.
Well, you just answered my question. I was finished.
I want to comment, applaud you, Alan, for staying here with us to help make this a seamless transition as you enter into your retirement. But there are some things that other people in the county just don't have the knowledge to move forward. And as you're doing that, Michael's learning, and I want to applaud you for doing that, not just walking out the door and taking this one lump sum and walking away, because there are some things we need to get, loose ends need to be tied up, and I want to applaud you for doing that.
He loves us too much to leave us.
Well, I do. It's been a challenge. It's been a challenge, and I will say this now, somewhat in retrospect, that yes, in the job that I do, and I'll say this to Michael, it's sometimes hard to be goal oriented because government continues forever, and it's hard to see an endpoint and opportunity to say, I accomplished that. But there are several things in the pipeline that I would like to be able to stand before you and say, yes, I accomplished that.
Me too.
You have to have success and feel confident you've done something, and there's these benchmarks that are coming up, and so I certainly will hope the board will allow me to work through those, and so we all can say we've accomplished something.
Yeah, that's what I was finna ask you about the Restore Council, but you had answered my question.
Yeah. In our office, we're pretty lucky. Most people only have Google. We have Google, Alan, and Mark.
That's right.
All right, Michael Burrow.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, Alan, you got some additional comments here.
Yeah, but we're going to do that then.
Okay.
I mean, either which way, we could do it now or do
No,
it at the
that's
end.
fine.
Either which way.
Moving along.
Okay. Item number 1 in my report, good news. We always try to start with good news. Inform the board that the county has been awarded the $700,000 CDBG grant to rehab or replace substandard owner-occupied single-family residences. Board action is needed to authorize the chairman's signature on the contract and to advertise for grant administration. I know the second part is going to be a question for you guys. We just can't hand the administration over to Debbie. That's not how it works. We have to go out, to get qualifications, and then the board has to choose who will administer this grant.
Each time you get a CDBG award, you have to go out and do a search for the administrator.
Administrator, that's just how it works. So I need board action for those two things.
On the first one, so move.
Second.
On the first one, we're doing the first one?
The chairman's signature on the contract to advertise for
Okay.
grant
All right,
administration.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And on the second one, I approve.
All right,
I
Second.
have a
move.
second?
Yes, second.
All right, I have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
That's to go out for bid, man.
Let's go out on
Well,
bid
At least a
first.
qualification.
first.
Qualification.
Y'all select-
Qualified.
Go out
Yeah.
for the qualifying bid.
Item number 2, board action to approve the final change order for the Chapman Auditorium re-roofing project. If you remember correctly, it was less money than we anticipated, so we finally got that change order, so we'll get our refund back
So
for that
moved.
project.
Second.
All in favor?
Question,
ahead.
question,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, for Mike. I looked at the change order and I understood that we'd come in $10,000 on the bid, but we're actually only $5,000 on the bid? I mean, under the bid.
I'll have to ask somebody, maybe that, I don't know.
It wasn't necessarily on the bid, it's that some of the work that they thought they needed money for, they did not. I think it was.
So it was only 5,000 and not 10?
Yeah, it's only 5,000 we're getting a refund for.
Okay,
I think it was for the roof, Mark explained to me.
okay.
I need a vote.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And I don't know if you guys got the same email I got, but item number 3, inform the board that FDOT will decrease the speed limit to 45 miles per hour from 55 on US 98 in Carabel from Ken Cope Avenue to the eastern city limit in Carabel. This action was based on a recent speed study. I attached a copy of the release for you. Commissioners?
Question, where exactly is Ken Cope Avenue?
Where Kendrick Park is. That's a paved road.
So, let's
You go
see,
down.
from Ken Cope Road to the eastern city limits, which would
It,
be,
it's not but about a block and a half to the city limit.
oh, okay. okay.
But now I do wanna
The eastern part
emphasize.
is- The eastern part's
Yeah.
right there. It's
I
just a
do-
little
I
ways.
do want to emphasize, though, that we needed to address the Els Court property with FDOT, and try to look at a traffic safety issue there, because it is a 55, I mean, they got a blinking light that says 45, but nobody follows that. That's the reason why we have so many accidents
So
out there.
you're asking for permanent reduction?
Well, we need to have them go out there and study it. That's-
Okay.
What they'll do is put those things down and study
Michael, I
it.
think when we get the final site plan, with the additional money, it's gonna show a turn lane. I think that'll be the justification then.
To go to 45.
So I hear what you're saying, but I think if you'll let us get the final site plan and submit that to DOT, they'll say, yes. we have
But what I'm
something.
saying is, when we get through with all that, I want him to put it on record, because if my mind goes, at least he'll know what Miss Cheryl wanted.
Okay.
But, anyway.
Item number 4, board action to authorize a road closure on US 98 for Franklin County Schools Homecoming Parade. It's going to be on October 23rd. The parade will run from Old Ferry Dock Road onto US 98 and exit on 2nd Street.
So
Copy
moved.
of- okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
In reference to road closure, item 5, inform the board that Crooked River Lighthouse will be hosting a Lantern Fest this year. You guys just got invitations on October 24th from 6 to 10. This event might cause some traffic congestions on US 98 around that 2-block area of the lighthouse. The Lighthouse Association will hire a Carabel police officer to assist with traffic control. They'll also provide a golf cart shuttle between the beach and the lighthouse. Our office has notified FDOT of this event and the possible traffic congestion issue.
And we might want to contact the sheriff's office and ask them to assist,
I will.
okay?
Item 6, I need board action to support and authorize the chairman's signature on a resolution declaring November 13th as World Pancreatic Cancer Day. Copy of the resolution is attached.
Second.
Motion second on the floor. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Item 7, inform the board that the county hasn't received fiscal years 2015, 2016, $350,000 SHIP approved allocations yet. The funds are normally received in July each year, but this year's anticipated date is November 5th, 2015. The SHIP administrator is reviewing and qualifying applications that will be processed upon receipt of the funds. Therefore, only administrative fees are being paid until those funds are received. And I want to thank Senator Mumford's Marcia Mathis, because she helped me figure out when we're getting our money. Florida Housing wouldn't give us any help. So we had to go through her to get that information. So basically, we're paying Lori to go ahead, review the applications, get them certified and qualified, so as the money drops, she starts to process the applications, rather than waiting. You know, if we get in November, the holidays, it slows everything down. Just want to inform you guys of that. In reference to SHIP, item 8, board action to authorize the chairman's signature on the SHIP annual report certification form. Ms. Switzer only had 2 years instead of the normal 3 years to spend fiscal years 2013, 2014 funds, so an additional annual report was needed this year to close out those funding. Copies of that report along with the certification was attached to your report.